There are people who take rejection like information. And then there are people who take rejection like an insult. Back then, I didn't understand the difference. I thought no was a full sentence. I thought boundaries were respected if you kept them calm. I thought silence was safe. But some egos don't hear silence as no. They hear it as a challenge. And that's when everything begins to shift. Not loudly, just structurally. London has a specific mood after rain. Everything looks freshly rinsed. Everything smells clean. And yet, the air still holds the memory of gray. That week, I walked through campus the way I always did. Measured steps, eyes forward, bag strapped tight in my hand like a habit. Nothing dramatic happened. No one blocked my path. No one shouted my name. No one chased. But I felt the shift anyway. Because the attention wasn't gone. It was organized now. It moved like a rumor with direction. Like curiosity with a leader. Like a crowd waiting for the next scene. And I didn't know why. I didn't know there was a bet. I didn't know my indifference had become entertainment. I only knew that people were watching me like I was a story they had started telling without my permission. Sometimes you don't feel danger. You feel interest. I've always liked routines. Not because I'm boring, because routines are predictable. Predictability is a kind of peace when your past has taught you that people can change suddenly. So I kept my day simple. Class, library, home, repeat. No extra friendships. No hangout sometime. No social loops that create expectations. People confuse that with arrogance. But arrogance is loud. Arrogance wants to be seen. I didn't want to be seen. I wanted to be untouched by other people's assumptions. And that's exactly what bothered them. Because when you don't need people, you remind them that they are optional. And that makes insecure people creative. It happened between lectures. I was standing by the corridor window where the light comes in pale strips. The kind of light that makes everything look like a film if you stare long enough. I was checking my timetable when someone stepped into my peripheral space. Not too close. Close enough to be intentional. I didn't look up immediately. Because reacting quickly gives strangers the wrong confidence. Then his voice. Smooth, familiar, rehearsed. Hey. I lifted my eyes slowly. Zane Carter. Up close, he looked exactly like the campus mythology. The type of face people believe belongs to someone important. The kind of smile that assumes you'll be grateful it landed on you. He held a notebook in his hand. Like an offering. Missed some notes from yesterday, he said lightly, tapping the page. Thought you'd want them. I looked at the notebook. Then I looked at him. Then I held my hand out and gently pushed it back toward him, like returning a receipt. I didn't miss them. I said. His smile paused. Half a second. Oh, he replied, still polite. Right. Helpful is offered once, I added calmly. He blinked, the smile tightening. I'm being respectful. I nodded slightly. Respect is also accepting no without needing a reason. That sentence landed quietly. But it landed. Because it wasn't angry. It wasn't dramatic. It was final. Behind him, I saw movement. A cluster of his friends nearby, pretending not to watch. Pretending badly. Zane kept his posture, kept his smile. But his eyes changed. They weren't smiling anymore. They were measured. Some kindness is a gift. Some kindness is a key. And I don't hand strangers my locks. 2 days later, he tried a softer entrance. Coincidence. The most common disguise. I was in the cafe line, waiting for tea, when he appeared beside me like he belonged there. You always look like you're thinking, he said. I am, I replied without looking. He chuckled like we were already familiar. About what? I finally turned my head slightly. About why people talk when they don't have anything to say. That should have embarrassed him. Instead, it amused him. He leaned closer. You're funny. I kept my face neutral. People mistake silence for humor when they don't know what to do with it. His smile sharpened. You're hard to read, he said. I'm not a book, I replied. A pause. His eyes flicked to my hands, then back to my face, like scanning for a crack. You know, everyone's curious about you, he added. I know, I said. He expected more. A question, a blush, a reaction. Instead, I took my tea and stepped away. And that was the moment I felt it. Not anger, not fear. A strange certainty. He wasn't trying to know me. He was trying to win. I didn't hear what happened next in real time. But on campus, stories travel like smoke. You don't see the fire, but you smell it everywhere. That afternoon, his group was on the stone steps again. Aiden was laughing too loudly. Like volume could turn humiliation into comedy. Bro, she walked away mid-conversation. Again. Ethan added. You're losing it, man. This is new. Maya smirked. Not cruel, just entertained. She's not impressed. It's kind of iconic. Zane leaned back like he didn't care. But you can tell when someone is acting unbothered. Their shoulders don't relax. Their jaw doesn't loosen. His smile stayed. But it was the kind of smile that hides teeth. It's not that deep, he said. Aiden laughed. That's what you said 2 days ago. Zane's eyes flicked sideways. Then Rowan spoke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to change the air. Leave it. Aiden rolled his eyes. Here comes the moral speech. Rowan didn't react to the teasing. He looked at Zane directly. She's not playing, Rowan said. Zane's gaze narrowed slightly. Everyone plays, he replied. Rowan's expression didn't change. No, he said. Some people protect themselves. That's not a game. That sentence would have ended the conversation if pride was reasonable. But pride isn't reasonable. It's reactive. And Zane didn't like being corrected in front of witness. Pride hates laughter, but it hates truth even more. Rowan didn't belong to their energy. Not because he was weak, because he didn't need attention the way they did. He was the kind of person who listened like listening mattered. The kind of person who didn't talk just to fill gaps. And in groups like that, quiet isn't just quiet. It's suspicious. Aiden leaned forward, grinning. Why do you care so much? Rowan blinked once. I don't. Ethan smirked. Looks like you do. Maya watched, expression thoughtful now. Zane turned his head slightly, like he'd just found a new angle. You're always like this, Zane said, acting like you're above it. Rowan's voice stayed even. I'm not above it. I just don't like it. A beat. Then Zane smiled, slow. Fine, he said casually. I'll drop it. But he didn't say it like a decision. He said it like a trap. Because the moment he drops something, it means he's about to pick up something else. Something quieter, something smarter. And that's when Zane's gaze slid toward Rowan again. Not friendly, not playful, strategic. Actually, he said, voice light, you'd be better at this than me. Rowan didn't respond immediately. Better at what? Maya asked. Zane's eyes stayed on Rowan, getting her to talk. The air changed. Aiden laughed like it was obvious. Oh, yes. Use the quiet one. Ethan nodded. Rowan doesn't threaten people. He's safe. Safe. The word hung there like a verdict. Rowan's jaw tightened, just slightly. Because being called safe in a group like that isn't a compliment. It's a tool. And tools don't get treated gently. I went home that night, unaware that the story was moving without me. I made tea. I revised notes on attachment theory. Avoidant. Anxious. Secure. The irony still didn't occur to me. I didn't know Zane's ego had already decided I was personal. I didn't know his friends were bored enough to turn me into entertainment. And I didn't know the quiet boy, the one who looked like restraint, had just become the new plan. Later, as I walked past the glass doors near the library, I saw my reflection. And behind it, a second reflection. Not close. Not obvious. Just there. watching. Not like attraction, like calculation. Sometimes you don't feel danger when it enters your life. Sometimes you only feel focus. Curiosity is a strange thing. Sometimes it's harmless. Someone noticing you. Someone wondering who you are. But sometimes curiosity changes shape. It becomes persistence. Persistence becomes entitlement. And entitlement is where danger begins to grow quietly. At the time, I didn't recognize the difference, because from the outside, everything still looked normal. The campus was loud as usual. Lectures were still late. People were still laughing outside the cafeteria. Nothing looked like the beginning of a problem. And yet, the atmosphere around me had shifted. Not loudly, but deliberately. Rowan noticed it first. Not the tension, not the whispers, the pattern. Every time I crossed the courtyard, Zane's attention moved toward me like gravity, not obvious enough to accuse, but enough to feel intentional. Aiden noticed too. "Mate," he said one afternoon, leaning back on the steps. "You're obsessed." Zane scoffed immediately. "I'm bored." Ethan smirked. "You're bored? With one specific girl?" Maya tilted her head. "She's not even flirting with you." That sentence landed harder than the teasing. Because in Zane's world, attention usually followed him. This time, attention was refusing. And refusal has a way of bruising pride. Rowan looked toward the psychology building again. "You should drop it." Zane didn't even look at him. "Why?" "Because she's serious." Aiden laughed. "Serious girls are the easiest ones to crack." Rowan didn't smile. "No," he said quietly. "They're the ones who remember." 2 days later, the moment arrived. Not dramatic, not planned loudly, just timing. I was leaving the psychology building with my bag over one shoulder and my headphones in my hand. The walkway was half empty, a quiet stretch between lectures. Zane stepped out from the side path like coincidence had placed him there. Except coincidence rarely waits. "Hey," he said casually. I slowed slightly but didn't stop. "Hi." He walked beside me now, matching my pace. "I feel like we started on the wrong foot," he said. His tone was smooth again, relaxed, practiced. I looked ahead. We didn't start at all. A pause. He smiled faintly. "That's what I mean." The conversation didn't feel like conversation. It felt like someone gently pushing against a locked door. "People say you're hard to get to know," he said. "I'm not trying to be known." He laughed softly. "That's not how university works." I stopped walking. Not dramatically. Just enough that he had to stop too. I'm not attending university to become accessible, I said calmly. For a moment, he just watched me. The smile was still there, but something behind it had hardened. You really think you're different from everyone else here? He asked. No, I replied. I just don't need everyone else here. Silence stretched between us. Students walked past without noticing anything unusual. From the outside, it still looked like two people talking. But inside the moment, something had shifted. His patience had started to crack. Zane stepped closer. Not aggressively, just inside the comfortable distance people usually keep. You know, he said quietly, most girls would be flattered. That sounds like their decision, I replied. And yours? My answer hasn't changed. Another pause. This time, his smile disappeared. Not fully. Just enough that the performance stopped. You're really going to keep acting like this? He asked. Like what? Untouchable. The word hung there for a second. Then he did something that changed the entire direction of the story. He reached forward and tried to pull me closer. Not violently, not dramatically, but confidently, like someone who believed the moment already belonged to him. The reaction was instant. My hand moved before the thought finished forming. A sharp sound cracked the air. The slap echoed louder than the conversation had been. Students nearby turned their heads. Zane froze. His face turned slightly to the side. Shock arrived first. Not pain. Shock. Because no one had probably done that to him before. I stepped back, steady. My voice was calm. Do not touch me. The words weren't shouted, but they carried. A couple of students stopped walking. Someone whispered. Zane slowly turned his face back toward me. The red mark on his cheek was already forming, and the expression in his eyes had changed completely. Not embarrassment. Something darker. Something colder. Aiden's laughter died instantly. Ethan muttered under his breath, "Holy hell." Maya covered her mouth, stunned. Rowan didn't react at all. He just stared. Not at the slap. At Zane. Because Rowan understood something the others didn't yet. This moment wasn't ending the game. It was escalating it. Back on the walkway, Zane's jaw tightened. You're going to regret that, he said quietly. I didn't flinch. If you touch me again, I replied, I'll report you. Another pause. Then I turned and walked away. Not rushing, not looking back. Because sometimes the strongest statement you can make is simply leaving. That moment became campus gossip within hours. Not because people understood what happened, but because people love spectacle. By nightfall, the story had already changed shapes. Some said I embarrassed him. Some said he deserved it. Some said I overreacted. But none of them understood the real problem. Because humiliation doesn't end conflict for people like Zane Carter. It feeds it. And somewhere across campus that night, his pride was quietly turning into something else. Not attraction. Not curiosity. Something much more dangerous. Revenge. People think humiliation fades. They imagine embarrassment disappears once the moment ends. But humiliation is not like anger. Anger burns quickly. Humiliation stays. It settles into the quiet parts of someone's mind and begins rearranging things. That afternoon, when my hand met Zane Carter's face, the moment ended for me the second I walked away. But for him, that moment had just begun. University rumors move like electricity. By the evening, the story had already traveled across half the campus. But like most rumors, the truth had already been distorted. Some versions said I slapped him because he insulted me. Others claimed he tried to kiss me. A few exaggerated the entire thing into a public fight. None of those versions mattered to Zane, because the only detail that mattered was this. People had seen him lose control of the situation, and in his world, reputation was currency. Losing it in public felt like theft. For 2 days, Zane disappeared. No cafeteria table. No loud jokes. No presence in the corridors. The absence itself became another rumor. Did he transfer? Did he get suspended? Did he actually like her? None of those guesses were correct. Because Zane wasn't hiding. He was recalculating. And wounded pride has a very particular rhythm. First, disbelief. Then anger. Then strategy. Aiden walked in first, pretending the situation was funny. "Mate," he said with a grin. "The legend has fallen." Ethan laughed under his breath. "You got humbled." Zane didn't smile. He sat on the edge of his bed, elbows resting on his knees. His voice was quiet. "She embarrassed me." The words weren't dramatic. They were controlled. Aiden shrugged, then embarrass her back. Maya frowned slightly. "That's not funny anymore." Zane looked at her. "You think I'm joking?" Silence followed, because suddenly the tone in the room had shifted. This wasn't teasing anymore. This was retaliation. Rowan had been quiet the entire time. Then he finally spoke. "You crossed the line first." The room went still. Aiden rolled his eyes. "Here we go again." Zane slowly looked up. "You're defending her now?" Rowan shook his head. "I'm pointing out reality." Another pause. "You tried to take something she didn't give you." Zane's jaw tightened. "You're supposed to be my friend." "I am," Rowan replied. "That's why I'm telling you to stop." The silence stretched longer this time, because Rowan's words didn't sound like criticism. They sounded like warning. And warnings irritate pride even more than insults. Aiden leaned back against the desk. "Bro, it's not that serious," he said. "It's just a girl." Zane laughed quietly. "That's exactly the problem." Everyone looked at him. "Everyone thinks she won." The words came out slowly. "And I don't lose." Ethan frowned slightly. "So, what's the plan?" Zane's eyes moved toward Rowan. And suddenly the entire conversation shifted direction. "Rowan," he said calmly, "you're the quiet one." Rowan didn't respond. "You're the one she actually talks to." Another pause. "You could get close to her." Aiden immediately understood. "Oh." Ethan's eyebrows lifted. "Use the calm guy strategy." Rowan's voice came out steady. "No." Zane didn't argue. He just watched Rowan carefully. "You think she's innocent in this?" Zane asked. Rowan didn't answer. "She humiliated me," Zane continued. "In front of everyone." "That happened because of you," Rowan said. Zane leaned forward. "Or maybe she thinks she's better than us." The room stayed quiet. Because manipulation doesn't shout, it nudges. "You're not scared of her, are you?" Aiden added. Rowan looked at him calmly. "No." "Then prove it," Aiden smirked. Rowan exhaled slowly. He could feel the pressure tightening around him. Not aggressive, but persistent. Group loyalty is strange like that. Sometimes the hardest thing to say is a simple no. Later that night, Rowan walked outside alone. The campus was quieter now, streetlights glowing softly across empty pathways. He stood there for a long moment, thinking. Not about the bet, not about pride, about consequences. Because Rowan understood something the others didn't yet. If he stepped into this situation again, nothing about it would stay simple. And somewhere across campus that same night, I was sitting at my desk, highlighting psychology notes under a warm lamp, completely unaware that the quiet boy who seemed different was slowly being pushed toward a decision that would change both of our lives. Looking back now, I can see the moment everything truly began. Not the slap, not the rumors. Those were only noise. The real beginning was quieter. It started with a conversation that seemed ordinary at the time. A conversation that didn't feel dangerous. That's the strange thing about life. The moments that change everything rarely arrive dramatically. They arrive quietly, with someone simply sitting down across from you. The library had become my safest place on campus. Not because it was silent, because it was predictable. No loud personalities. No social expectations. Just quiet focus. I sat at the same table most evenings. Corner seat. Back toward the wall. Old habits again. My psychology textbook was open in front of me. A chapter on trust formation. Irony has a sense of humor. Because trust was the last thing I expected to develop that year. I sensed someone approaching before I looked up. Not because of footsteps. Because people carry energy differently. Some people arrive loudly. Others arrive carefully. When I lifted my eyes, Rowan was standing beside the table. Not invading space, just waiting. "Is this seat taken?" he asked. The question was simple, but the way he asked it was different from the others. No assumption. No performance. Just patience. "No," I said. He nodded once and sat across from me. Not beside. Across. That small decision created distance. And distance can be a form of respect. The first few minutes passed without conversation. And that alone made the moment unusual. Most people rush to fill silence. Rowan didn't. He opened his notebook. Started writing something. Occasionally glancing toward a reference book beside him. It felt normal. Almost forgettable. And that was exactly why it disarmed me. Because people trying to impress you usually make sure you notice them. Rowan seemed content simply sharing the space. After several minutes, he spoke. "You're in Langford's class, right?" I nodded. "Yes." He tapped his pen lightly against the page. "You asked a question last week about behavioral patterns." I looked up slightly. "You remember that?" "It was a good question," he replied. There was no flattery in his voice. Just observation. "What are you studying tonight?" he asked. "Trust dynamics," I said. He smiled faintly. Interesting timing. Why? Because most people here don't understand trust at all. That made me pause. "Explain." Rowan leaned back slightly in his chair. "People treat trust like a shortcut," he said. "They assume familiarity equals safety." I watched him carefully. "And you disagree?" "Yes." "Why?" He shrugged lightly. "Because familiarity can also be manipulation." That answer caught my attention. Not because it was dramatic, because it sounded honest. Most people speak about psychology like theory. Rowan spoke about it like experience. "You sound like someone who's been observing people for a long time," I said. He smiled slightly. "Observation is easier than participation." That sentence lingered between us. I realized something then. Rowan wasn't trying to impress me. He was simply talking. And sincerity has a quiet gravity. The kind that slowly lowers your guard without you noticing. Trust doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives with consistency. Years later, I would understand something important about that evening. Rowan hadn't come to the library purely by accident. The conversation had started with intention. But somewhere, during those quiet minutes between textbooks and questions, his intention had begun to change. What started as strategy was slowly becoming curiosity. And curiosity is dangerous when mixed with guilt. Because Rowan already knew something I didn't. He knew about the pressure from his friends. He knew about Zane's anger. And he knew that if he kept sitting there across from me, things would eventually become complicated. Eventually, I packed my books. The library lights had dimmed slightly. Students were leaving. Rowan closed his notebook as well. "Good night, Aria," he said. I paused. Most people on campus didn't say my name so calmly. "Good night," I replied. I walked toward the library exit. Outside, the air was colder now. Across the courtyard, I noticed someone leaning against a railing. Zane Carter. Watching. Not approaching. Just observing. And that was the moment I should have realized something important. Because silence from someone like Zane doesn't mean surrender. It means planning.